Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Let's take a moment to find each other again. It's such a large space. Yeah, gotcha. Let's find each other even more. So anybody watching us is going to have to wait a moment. Exactly. As we feel even more into our common ground. Like this is me and Dr. Rachelle Dixon in the playground that we are creating, in the space that we are creating, that we are totally ready to share with other nice kids who want to join us on an herbal playground, learning about how do we embody and transmit the herbs, especially since it's springtime right now, the wood herbs. Yeah, and I'm feeling you, and I'm feeling us holding hands down there. And that's good. So keeping our root and also keeping the invitation to nice kids who want to be with us. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. So I'm just mentioning to everybody here who's joining us on this playground, Rachelle and I didn't really plan this out because this is the wood element. And I would personally feel hypocritical if I planned a whole thing because wood is so incredibly improvisational. So, Rachelle, do you want to say anything that you can think of on the subject of wood's transmission, embodiment, and why you got yourself into this while you and I are making ourselves primary, but letting nice kids come play? Yeah.
Well, part of the reason why I'm really fascinated in this is like being the formula. I thought that was just so great. Like, what's a tiny little, I remember there was a time that you were talking in your whole heart connection where like, especially like the trainers of the whole heart connection, where it was like, you kind of like connect in with the ground through your feet. And you kind of want to give the participants like a free sample, right, of like with this kind of work, or like the embodiment of the work that we were going to do.
Right.
And so kind of taking this into like when I'm handing patients their formula, like being able to give them that kind of free sample of the formula already, and just like how I could show up in that kind of way. That's actually why I was all like, absolutely, I would totally do this with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also like with the wood formulas specifically, I feel like this particular spring has seemed extraordinarily hard for a lot of my patients, actually. And I think that it's like, I think one of the best ways I know how to describe it is I had a patient describe it as, I'm not exactly sure if I can commit to being this alive all of a sudden. After having been hidden in a cave, wondering if I'm going to be alive for so long.
Right.
Yeah. And that kind of like, I'm going to stand up like a tree and I'm going to let this sap rise up and I'm going to be able to go out and I'm going to be able to do these kinds of things and stay flexible when the wind blows. A lot of people have been saying that that's been hard for them. And so I'm looking forward to kind of being able to embody that a little bit more for my folks who need it.
Yeah. You mentioned something that I think is really rampant, that a lot of people's wood is kind of like, how do I do this? How do I come out of water? I remember last spring teaching, doing a spring workshop in which nobody could get out of water. Even I was like, come on, you guys, here we go, up and at them, no longer like a potato buried in the ground. And they're all like
I am still a potato, though.
I'm still a potato. I think I'm going to stay buried in the ground for another year, like a bulb that's like, I'm no daffodil this year.
Yeah.
Just staying in there. Yeah. And I think that we are working with a situation where there really is not a lot of kidney yang left in people because it's been such a long winter.
Mm-hmm.
And so feeling for that and the embodiment of that, I'm down in that low body again, where it's like, ah, like yeah. Do I want to come out of hiding? Do I have the resources? So now we're just like passing back and forth the empathy with that. And
Absolutely.
the thing about healing and the embodiment of the herbs is that this is a resonance medicine, not a bullying medicine. Meaning, if somebody's kidney yang deficient and a little bit quaking and not wanting to come out of the dark and be alive, we can't, giving them a kidney yang tonic doesn't just like, it's not like giving them speed or Viagra or like what, it's just like, it's not like, do it, you know? And so that's true of us as well. When we're doing the embodiment, what the herb is going to do that's helpful is sound a note. Herbs are music in plant form. They sound a note that's gonna help a little lute string down in somebody's lower dantian that right now is going
Mm-hmm.
and giving it a sense, a beginning sense, a just starting at the beginning sense of senseless, purposeless, it, like aliveness doesn't really start with kaboom, you know, it starts with just like, I'm awake. Hi. So I'm working with in myself, finding that, and it's small. And feeling for the part of you where it's small, we're scared, right? Let's just admit it, we're both scared. I have a good bluff exterior, I can really get out there, and you have a pretty good one too, but we're both like, ah. So we can pass back and forth to each other. That I'm actually with Baji Tian Morinda at the moment because I'm feeling it in such a soft and womb-like strength. Yeah, that. Thank you. And so let's be, thank you, passing that not just to me, but to any of the nice children who want to come play. You don't have to go up and out to them. They can come here. Yeah, that's actually really important in terms of transmission, that we don't overextend ourselves. In other words, I think if we go onto like the triple heater channel and just start sending it on out, we attract goodness knows what and we tire ourselves out. It's more like an open secret. Like, hey, down here on this playground, we're sharing a bag of kidney yang chips. We're sharing a bag of Baji Chen Morinda chips. And the bag is open. And we let molecules of that out. But if people want to join us, yeah, exactly. Good. I'm feeling it now. Like the people coming, they're coming into a hard mediator kind of space, not a triple heater space. We're saying, which means, just by the way, and I really appreciate this on Facebook, it's a space where in order to come join us here, you got to put your weapons down. Triple heater space is not so much like that, you know, but this is like, okay, you want to join us in Baji Chan Morinda and have your womb warmed and strengthened and given a little more confidence in its capacity to create a new life, you come join us here in this space. Yeah. So I'm definitely feeling more of that Bajitian Morinda womb that is able to nurture a new life. And of course, it's obvious this is for men as well as for women. One of the things that I just did that I recommend doing in the treatment room is some kind of half-assed combination of thinking of like, because the kidney yang, like there was like this feeling of yanglessness, eek. And then it becomes the thinking, okay, that's kidney yang. And then there's the kind of combination that's not particularly elegant of thinking of all the kidney yang tonics it might be, but then actually getting in there and kind of feeling for what actually makes sense here. And, you know, Dujang Eukomia ran through my mind and came into my body. And I was like, you know, that's nice, but that's not what's it. That's not what's going to give the people, starting with us, what they need to start a new life. And I was like, Futsa Aconite. And I'm like, ah! Maybe, but maybe not. It just seems so absolute in a way, even if it's the nice, expensive kind from Heiner Fruhoff that's like, bring the yang back to the source. It just still seems so non-relational. And I you know, so basically I was thinking of a few of them, feeling them in my body and feeling for, does that feel good for this? And the Bajitian Morinda with a more like, we're starting our new life with a womb, right? Because it's starting small and it needs to be nourished and it needs to feel that feeling of strength and some elasticity, because Morinda, it's in Bajitian, it's got a blood and ligament kind of a feeling to it, that nourishing of the ligaments. I'm like, okay, little more likely to feel like I might end up jumping or stretching now that we have this womb and some ligaments that feel like they might not crack. Yeah. This making sense, and or any comment you'd want to make about this so far?
I really like the differentiation between like it's both like womb but also ligaments, like ligaments that won't snap.
Yeah.
Because I think that having that kind of flexibility, that's really it too. It's all like, because you can put the pedal to the metal and be all like, all right, I guess I got to do it, just show up and do it, and then you kind of feel all of your insides crack and pop as you do it.
Yeah, like I like the way the Bajitian is just like, it softens and nourishes and warms in there a little bit. And I kind of think that the kidney, both yin and yang to blood transition, is really important right now for a lot of people's wood element. That feeling of sap coming out of the roots and into the tree. Right? Not just the liquidy feeling of root coming out of the silence, but life force that's been held on the inside. That's warming and moving of the blood. I'm thinking, I'm with Dong Quai now, because like as I started moving like this, I was like feeling the Dong Quai of it, and it's interesting. There's a movement, how to say, there are a lot of people who, if you're going to make rapport with someone else's wood element, yours better not be immobilized. Like, I think some cultures have it more than others. Certainly, dominant white culture, like the higher the strata it is, the more it is schooled to stay absolutely immobile and not move. It's like this freeze.
Mm-hmm.
Like, while listening, just immobile. Face may also be immobile, but even if the face has an expression on it, like the body is immobile, it's like a stifle response, like a self like
Mm-hmm.
schooled thing. Not all cultures have it quite as bad as that, and any culture that's been around a lot of white people sort of gets that way a little bit more, I think.
It's true.
And my sense is it's got to go. It's got to go in order to have a healthy wood element. It's not natural to be still all the time.
Mm-mm.
And this stillness that we're talking about, it's not the stillness of water. It's not real stillness. It's stifle. It's holding still. It's not stillness. It's holding still. And one of the deepest difficulties with this is that this means that within those cultures, movement feels taboo and a little scary. Like, it's breaking a taboo not to be in self-stifle mode. Or just like, whatever my impulses are going to be, better just hold them in. Don't be natural. Don't be free. And that needs a combination of blood to be able to move, the Dong Quai, to have enough room in the inner world, and Chuan Xiang Ligusticum. Chuan Xiang Ligusticum, Ted Kapchuk says, is the signature herb for coming out of denial. He adds it to any congealed blood formula where there's like abuse issues and memories coming up and stuff that it's kind of hard to integrate, because it eases the edge between the inner world and the outer world and helps it unimmobilize. Not explosively, but just like, could I fidget as a step towards freedom? Yeah. So I'm thinking about that, not just on a cultural level of the entire culture being a certain amount of trauma that gets passed on, but also just the immobilization of this many years of COVID stuff, and needing not just the Baji Tian Morinda warming from the root to get that sap flowing, but probably more of the blood herbs that move, like the Dong Quai, and for sure the Chuan Xiang Ligusticum. The Chuan Xiang Ligusticum, there's this, let me see if we can do this, because it's partly because I'm talking so darn much, but I'm feeling your Dong Quai more, like the movement on the inside, and that's really worthwhile. The more Dong Quai we have on the inside, the less we are easy to push around by the wind. Like, we're just not that easy to push around, not because we're stiff or tough or big and strong or counter dominant, but just because we're like seaweed in the waves. It's like, okay, you did that thing, didn't you? You did that thing.
Yeah.
And there's like, okay, I can roll with this. I may come back and give you a writ of whatever and let you know that we're going to court if it doesn't change. But internally, I'm not yanked around. I think that's part of why there's a certain amount of hesitation to getting out there, is because, oh, baby, it's a wild world, right? There's a lot happening. And without enough Dong Quai, without enough soft, moving roll with it, shock absorber energy on the inside, there's just so much happening out there in the wind. And I'd say this Dong Quai quality of wood is exactly what gives us the capacity to be responsive rather than reactive.
Oh. I like that.
Yeah. To be responsive means there's like, okay, I'm moving with this and then coming back with this from my inner world, rather than being blood deficient and just like having like nothing but a puddle deeper than the way level and saying the thing, right? The thing, all the ways in which blood deficiency leads to victimhood, because you're basically pinned to the wall by your own reaction to what they did, as opposed to being like, now that's bullshit, right? With some fullness on the inside. Yeah, feeling you. Comment or noticing, because I feel you meeting me there really well and holding the people too.
I remember one of the first times that I ever had Dongwei, it was like one of the, I was a dancer, so everything kind of goes back to dance. But it really was like almost like drinking a dance I had known but had forgotten. And it wasn't like I had to go outside of myself to learn the steps. It was just however was natural to move, just remembering you are a moving creature and that every movement can be a dance if you want it to be.
Yeah. Thank you for that transmission. Yeah, as you speak it, I can feel how insides of bodies are always moving. Insides of bodies, there's no holding still. It's all sloshing and moving around, and it's all making room for each other with each breath and each heartbeat, or the slower things, the expansion of the bladder or whatever else we're carrying in there. Yeah. And then the Dong Quai, we're adding to it the Chuan Xiang Ligusticum and saying there's a kind of, this is when you start moving your arms when you talk. Right? This is when you start talking with your head. Yes, there's just something that's outside of the skin too. Like, okay, I'm coming outside of my skin, but not like boing, 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 boing. Right? This is a chi moving herb, but it's not chai hoo. Right? Ripping the lid off of the Jack in the Box. It's not, it's like, it's just loosening everything. So that there's less distinction between the inner and the outer world. A little more dance there. It's like, yeah. Because I think a lot of the holding still, and whether that's because you're white and you've been trained to suppress things, or whether you've been around people who are white and are being suppressed, like don't have that opinion too loudly, then in both cases there needs to be an opening into freedom that is non-explosive. And the Chuan Xiang Ligusticum is that opening into freedom. It's totally non-explosively. I'm just letting my skin open into the air so that me and the environment, me and what happens to be going on, there's a kind of free flow. Yeah, there you go. There we go. Yeah. And how important that is with enough blood underneath it, so that if your free reaction to something is, you can just leave it at that. It's like, no, it's a release that doesn't, that doesn't catapult. It just opens. Got any folks that this makes sense for in your practice? Is this
I
answer?
do.
Yeah.
I do.
Because I don't know just how chai-hu a lot of the people that I'm meeting these days are.
Not often. I feel like a lot of my very, very first herbs clients were definitely chai-hu clients. They kind of needed to have the kind of like Jack in the Box sprung a little bit so that they could kind of come back into themselves. You know, like there's that part like after the box opens and like the thing pops out, and then it kind of like goes back and kind of like, you know, like that seemed necessary.
Yeah. I'm not feeling that right now.
No.
I think there is a population, they're not in my practice, that is much more rageful. That's the word for that. Outwardly rageful and on the move. And I'm not so sure. I mean, I'm sure that they don't need chai-hu either. In fact, the herb that I'm feeling right now is gotung and karya. Like there's this thing with the gotung and karya. It makes the back of your neck kind of stiff, and it makes you stick your head forward. Want to give it a try? You won't like it. Where you're like, no, man. You're like, if you put up your finger and shake your finger, it'll help you. Like, yeah, exactly. It'll help you do with your head the thing that you do with your head. You might want to do it even more. It's like the head. It's like, yeah, exactly. Yeah. That thing with the neck, exactly, where you're the head. It's like, like my whole head, exactly, is coming. Right. You got it, right? If you do it with sense of humor, then it can be fun in a way, and then you can ignore the level at which it's actually kind of scary, right? Yeah. You look scary doing that. Yeah, right. That whole thing. But I think that there's a certain amount of that, of like, you know, like the and this is such a huge issue with anger. Is the issue of the difference between being right and being healthy.
Ooh.
Right? Yeah. Because some of those people who are like this, they might even be on your side. Right? They might even be like, and they're with the head that's like in the neck, like it like in the future, like talk about forward looking, you know, it's ridiculous. We may or may not agree with them even about what they believe needs to be done. But that's internal wind that's not twitchy, it's stiff. Although sometimes there's like twitches, it's like
just slight twitches. Like I could see like that was almost like a neck twitch or something. Like
yeah, because it's a lot of pressure, and it's pressure moving forward. It's like pressing on the future. You know what? I think the word should is a real embodiment of that energy of pressing on the future. And it's got a really self-righteous kind of quality to it. And don't be fooled. They may even be right. But it actually doesn't matter that they're right, because they're a stroke happening to the world around them. Pushes, right? So I'm feeling for when we let the I really have to roll my neck, and like get into that space between the shoulders in order to find it. And I'm so glad that we have the Baji Tian Morinda already in our bodies. That's anchoring our yang, giving it a place to have a less urgency and more endurance, right? Because a lot of the time urgency comes from lack of endurance, otherwise known as I can't stand this one more minute, right? And then that creates pressure for change right now, otherwise known as a stroke or a riot or a big argument, or whatever it is. So we're saying Baji Tian Morinda, more endurance. Dong Quai Angelica, more inner shock absorber, more inner ability to kind of roll with stuff. This is not passive. Wait, I gotta sneeze. Hang on.
Achoo! Achoo! Bless you.
I thought I muted myself, but it didn't look like it muted. My apologies. It's a lot of freedom, I guess. Yeah, so we're with the Baji Tian. That's a little bit of wind coming out. You know what? I bet that's what it is. That I'm doing this whole wind thing, and it got the thing going. Yeah. So the resilience, the Dong Quai, the freeing up of the Chuan Xiang Ligusticum. And when there's enough blood in there, the Gotong and Karya releases the imagination from being like, because should is like a wind-locked imagination. Like I'm seeing the future, it's going this way. Ugh! You know, and there's such a loveliness to the freedom of the imagination of Gotong and Karya. It's a vine. It's like it can go in many different directions. See if we can get a little more blood in here, though. Because the Dong Quai may not be enough. We're like really wanting to fill higher, get more heart blood in it. Swan Zhao Ren. I know, it's so sweet. Yeah, because there's so much anxiety underneath the Gotong type of wind thing. And we're wanting there to be enough heart and liver blood, because Swan Zhao Ren Sisyphus is both, to be able to have freedom of imagination without freaking out. Right?
Without those weird, gnarly nightmares that come sometimes at night, too, right?
Yes. That's the Gotong and Karya for sure. Yeah. And Hun is the coming and going of Shen. And so the Shen needs enough blood in there to be like, I'm right here. My imagination is moving lots of places. With enough blood, it moves softly, flexibly. And I honestly feel like that's one of the main things everybody's wood element needs right now, is a softer, more flexible imagination. Yijiao Tongue, Polygonum Vine.
Oh, I was just thinking about that, actually. That's so funny.
Yeah, I may have picked it up right from you. Yeah,
like wrap right around you, like just like this, you know, like a hug.
Yeah. And I really like the combination of vines between the Yijiao Tongue Polygonum vine and the Gotong and Karya vine. Vines in the wind, that quality of vines in the wind, anchored enough, sap rich enough, because we really do need to have a kind of wandering imagination for this to work out, to go out in our sailboat first with just a small sail. Yeah. I'm wondering, I kind of think that there are a lot of people who don't have the full outward kind of Gotong thing, but who have some of that inwardly. Like, I believe I know a lot of people who are putting themselves under that kind of pressure with the kind of should, and having the kind of wind anxiety in the heart, usually with indecision. Like that kind of, I don't know which way to turn. I don't know which way to go. There's like both like too many options and none of them good. That kind of feeling. That also reminds me of Gotong and Karya with heart blood and liver blood deficiency. There's a lot of wind, not a lot of me, and not a lot of peace from which to imagine. So we may be building a cultural formula here with a variety of uses.
I like that it's also for the inside, like the kind of this that happens that sometimes is actually this, like you doing that to yourself.
Yeah, should, self-righteous pressure. Yeah. And all of that should is a sign that you have a wonderful visionary imagination. That you really are able to envision the future, that you're forward looking. It's just gotten a little harsh and excessive and not fully remelted back into the blood where the imagination can be rooted. Yeah. Alhamdulillah. Ooh, I'm actually feeling like I can feel the culture drinking. Formula feels really good. Yeah. I'm thinking of kind of leaving it at this, unless you have other questions, comments, or reflections that you want to make.
No, this is good.
Yeah, this is the thing that I think is really cool, is talking about the herbs, describing what they do both on a physical level and a non-physical level, and actually sampling it, feeling it. Now, Dr. Rachelle Dixon is excellent at this, but on my herb day, which is coming up on Sunday, you can be a beginner and it's really fine. You can just be showing up like a new wood sprout saying, I don't know how to feel the herbs. I wouldn't know if some formula, if Xiao San walked through the door, but I don't know how to be Chai Hu Shugan Tang. It's really okay. Or to say, like, I've been practicing herbs for years, but I don't know how to embody them. It's fine. You don't have to already know how. We'll talk about various formulas that seem likely to be useful at this time of year and for your wood clients. You'll talk about what's going on in your practice, and we'll feel into it and we'll play, because we're nice kids on the herbal playground. Okay. Hope to see you there. And thank you, Rachelle.
Thank you, Thea.